93X rocks.
Hey, it's Pablo from 93X with Dan Donegan of Disturbed here at Northern Invasion. What's going on, my friend? How you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Man, your hands are really soft.
I try to stay away from hard labor these days, you know.
I like that. Well, what'd you do? I mean, obviously Disturbed off for quite a while. What'd you do with your time off?
Just a lot of family time. I was actually coaching my son's football team and undefeated Super Bowl champs. I got to throw that in there.
That's awesome.
But I wasn't the only coach. There was like 8 of us. But
Still got to feel good?
Oh, it was great.
Proud Papa?
And then my daughter's basketball team. So a lot of sports with the kids. You know, I mean, they're young, 12 and 9. Well, my son's going to be 9 soon. So just a lot of family time. I think we all kind of split up and did our thing. Mike had his second kid during the break, and David had his first kid during the break and got married. And so we've all just kind of wanted to get away and recharge the batteries and spend a little bit more of a normal life home and with family and friends. A lot of people that we haven't seen too often of.
Sure.
So, but it was nice to kind of just unwind and recharge the batteries.
Musically, did you keep yourself going? Were you writing in that time too? Just taking some time off with the family, but still like on the guitar, thinking about things.
Yeah, I mean, it's in my blood. So I have a guitar next to my bed, which my wife probably hates that I keep that there. Sometimes you never know. In the middle of the night, I might be inspired by something or wake up and feel like playing, and I just.
Any example of that? Any one song you can point to that you know? Yeah, that came from me laying in bed.
I mean, quite a few of the riffs here and there. I think the Vengeful one, the first single, was something I wrote on the edge of the bed, and I have a little studio set up at home too, just so if I want to dive into it deeper and kind of start tracking stuff, then I could do that. But that, and everybody was kind of off doing side projects. You know, David with Device, and me and Mike did Fight or Flight, and John stayed busy, obviously, with Queensryche and Adrenaline Mob, and with Jeff Tate's Queensryche. Yeah. So we all stayed busy musically enough to just, keep our feet wet.
Sure.
But, that much time away from Disturbed, definitely there was a void there, and we were missing it after a while. Once we got to that point to where we knew that we wanted to try to get things going again, we wanted to make sure that we never had a time frame of when the return would be.
So it wasn't like a switch went off and said, all right, now's the right time. It was just...
Well, we just said, let's go away for a bit. And then when we want to pick up the phone and start talking about diving back into this, we'll just kind of feel it out. And it was after New Year's one year, I spoke to David. This was shortly after his son was born. And he lives in Austin, Texas, and I'm still in Chicago. And so I made plans to, fly out to visit and meet his son for the first time, and that was our first time to just kind of lay everything out on the table and kind of talk a little bit of music too, besides family, and that kind of just got the ball rolling, saying, hey, maybe why don't you send me some ideas and this and that. So I started sending a few ideas musically to him, and that just basically blew the gate wide open, because then we start getting creative again together, and then Mike started coming down to my house from the Milwaukee area. He could come down to my house to Chicago, and we work on some beats and stuff and just riffing out. And we just made a conscious effort to be in a room together more often, instead of just relying on technology and Pro Tools and sending files to each other. Yeah. We said, you know what, that's good to get the ball rolling, but we really need to be in a room and write how we always did in the beginning. So once we decided that, David had flown out to my house a few times, and I flew out to his. So we said, this is where the real energy happens, when we could feed off each other's energy, instead of sending a file in an email or a Dropbox, and then you're like waiting for a response. Hey, what do you think of that riff? It's hard to be inspired that way. So at least in person, the old school way of just being what a band should be, and just me playing a riff, and we're Mike laying down a rhythm, and then just waiting for to see how David's reaction is to it, and to see if it's inspiring him. Sure. And so you feed off that, and if you're improvising on the spot, and it's just developing, and I think we realized that we need to stick with that formula of writing. We can never go back the other way, because
it's just been positive all the way around. You guys all feel it when you're in that room. It's just
for sure. I mean, it was like I said, instantaneously, just that those moments when you get that chill up your spine, and we're feeling it together, So it just kept things going from there, but we wanted to keep it secret, because we didn't know how soon we were going to be ready to announce anything or release an album. We wanted to take our time with it. No time frame, no pressure. We didn't even tell most of the people at our record label.
You work with Kevin, though, right? Kevin Church?
Yeah, Kevin Churko, he's done a lot of great albums, and we went to his place in Vegas, which is kind of hard to keep things secretively because it's Vegas. Yeah. But we just tried our best not to be seen together. You know, we were in the studio doing 12, 14-hour days most of the time, so there wasn't really a whole lot of crazy playtime. You know, we would pick and choose our moments when we get out, but it was mostly there to work. It was
how long did it take to knock out the record when you finally?
We were probably in there a little over 2.5 months, and then mixing probably closer to 3 months counting the mix.
Did it come pretty easy then when it was in the studio? It was just all.
It came easy. I mean, as far as the chemistry with us, it's still, you know, it's still there. You know, I was a little concerned in the beginning, thinking, do we, you know, being away from each other that long, are we going to have writer's block? Are we going to be able to get back up, you know, on that horse and ride it? And it just came naturally to us. And but the approach this way that was different for us too was we kept an open mind on really looking at everybody's performance and part under a microscope and making changes in the studio on the spot as we felt necessary. Where in the past previous albums, we would basically do all the pre-production ahead of time ourselves, go into the studio and say, okay, let's record this, and we have the album. So this time it was a lot more of an open mind of really collaborating on every aspect, to where we were writing some lyrics with David, and there's some musical, you know, suggestions from anybody that was in the room, you know. So, and we would try every idea, and we would just go with what we were feeling was the best idea.
Sure. Talk about the phenomenon that is the Sound of Silence for you guys. I mean, talk about that's got to be crazy.
Yeah, it's definitely.
I mean, we're seeing it all the time. I mean, the fans love the song. I mean, they love it. You guys did a great job with it.
Thank you. I mean, that the first initial thought of that, once we were discussing in the studio that we were going to do another cover, and we like to do them because it's challenging for us. It pushes us musically
make it your own.
Right, to try to make it our own, but to pay respect to the original artist and that. And at one point, as we're talking, what era do we want to look into now? And we said, let's go a little bit deeper than we normally do. And then at one point, Mike had suggested, hey, what about Simon and Garfunkel? And as we're thinking of songs now, we realized Sound of Silence was probably the most fitting.
And David could nail it too. So.
Well, for sure. We knew it was going to be a challenge and something to really, because it's such a classic song, sure. How do we make it our own? And so instead of going, I didn't want to go the typical Disturbed way of adding a heavy riff, sure. And Mike doing some syncopated drums. I made the suggestion to go a different path of let's give David something musically that's going to be dark and haunting in a way that's going to force him to go somewhere vocally that the fans haven't heard.
Sure.
And by bringing in the orchestra and the violins and the cellos and making it haunting in that way, but it's not getting in the way of his vocal performance. It was putting a lot of pressure on him to really hit it out of the park or strike out on it. So, you know, I thought it was a good way to get him to sing in that lower register, finding
Absolutely.
the key to play the song it in that's going to get him somewhere that the fans has just never heard.
Right.
And have him really have to build it vocally. And we have musically, you know, subtle build up with the timpanis and, like I said, just additional, you know, acoustic guitar and stuff like that. But it really forced him into being vulnerable throughout the song.
And a different and great sound for Disturbed. I mean, it's definitely different style-wise,
Right.
but yet you guys pulled it off fantastically. Do you do it live? Are you doing it every night now?
Yeah, I mean, the tricky thing was after we recorded it and wrote it that way, it's like, oh wow, this really surpassed our own expectations. Then it was
that's
like,
gotta be great. Good feeling.
then how do we deliver this performance live too? And then it just came down to me having to jump on piano, and now I bring in my guitar tech will sit in on guitar.
Oh, so
for
you're
that
still
one.
on piano for that?
Yeah, I'll stay on piano, and then John will jump on acoustic guitar as well, and then Mike's on timpani up there. So we bring in every city. We bring in a violinist and a cellist. We advance it before every city, So we have local musicians come in every market that we're in. So that works out great too, because
Really special. That's cool.
yeah, it gives them an opportunity to kind of share the stage with us
Sure.
every night, and it cuts our expenses of having to travel with 2 more people and put them in hotels and
Sure.
have them live on the road.
So do you guys then tonight? Do you get the full-on Disturbed show? Do you guys doing I don't know crazy lights and pyro, or is tonight a little bit stripped down because it's a festival type thing?
Any opportunity we can have the full show and all the bells and whistles, we do it. It really depends on weather and these in the wind. We do have pyro, and we do have a big light show. So the pyro, it's hit or miss. If the weather picks up and the wind's blowing hard, and the fire marshal says no,
It's like, oh,
you know, or if he limits us on what we could do. Last night it was similar to today's weather here, but we were able to do a majority of it. There were a few gags in there that we have that we were shut down on doing just because they were really, really big fire moments, and so more of a safety issue with this many people that are up on stage, and the viewers and fans. So we'll see. I think, like I said, we're just kind of at the mercy of when the sun goes down and what the weather does, how much we can get away with.
Fantastic. Dan, I want to thank you for your time, man. 93X, everyone in Minneapolis, we love Disturbed, man. This is great. Dan Donegan, Northern Invasion, you guys. Peace. Very cool.
93X rocks.